LOP-53 stop, clear the switch.
Understand. Alright, switch line to take Monolith.
Coming ahead, LOP-53. Conductor riding.
Yes, sir, I'm on the...
Hunch.
Welcome to part 2 of the series on the UP Mojave local LOP-53. You'll see to the right of our cab view the tank cars that we pulled out of the facing point spur in the previous part. That's so that we'll be able to grab them from the rear of our locomotive when we go in and pick up all of the cars, which will now be on trailing point switches. Scrolling to the bottom of the OC on the Run 8 Depot Plus server, we can see detailed information on all of the industries to be worked on this job. Since we're working Monolith right now, we click on the photo button to see an aerial view of the spurs. Here I show how we moved those tank cars out of the facing point tank spur to the through spur that can be reached from the rear of our train. Up on our right, we see the box cars and cement hoppers that we'll need to pick up. For those unfamiliar with terms like facing point and trailing point switches, facing point switches are switches that are ahead of the locomotive. You'd have to push cars into that switch or pull cars out of that spur from the front of your locomotive. Trailing point switches are switches that are reached from behind the locomotive. You shove cars into a trailing point switch, or you pull cars out of the trailing point switch using the rear end of your train or locomotive. So the switch up ahead, even though it's ahead of us, is a trailing point switch because we're going to be able to back into it.
Looks like that'll do there, Steve.
That will do on the LOP-53.
Conductor Thomas Jenner gets off the train and gets ready to throw the switch behind us, and he'll let us know when we can head on back. You can see him out the window.
Hey Brian, you out there?
Alright, switch line to ride and take the chef. Come on back about 10 cars.
Conductor's protecting the shove, come back 10. LOP-53.
You can see Thomas riding on the rear locomotive.
Looking good for about 5 cars for couple.
5 cars to join LOP-53.
Why do I keep repeating my train name, LOP-53, or my engine number? It's because railroad rules require it, so the conductor knows for certain that I, his engineer, heard his direction. There could be multiple trains on the same channel, and you wouldn't want any confusion or to accidentally move a locomotive when the conductor was in a dangerous position.
Three cars for a couple.
So ready to join LOP-53.
Under code 340, that's 340 to Wilson. From control point C177 on the siding, no switch. Control point C178 on the siding, switch, no. Mark up $10, dispatch ARW.
Two cars.
2 now, LOP-53.
One car.
1 car.
Half a car.
1 house.
Dispatch 254, over.
About 10 feet.
10 feet.
That'll do.
That will do. Set and centered on the LOP-53.
Sensor.
Conductor Thomas opens up the angle cock to put air into the cars we've just coupled to.
What do we just pick up, Conductor Jenner?
Oh, the cement hopper.
Cement hoppers. I'll mark them on the OC unless were you going to do that? Okay, cement hoppers picked up at Monolith. Was that 15 loaded 2-bay covered hoppers?
That would be correct.
Understood. Picked them up. Ready for me to take them ahead, Conductor?
No, let's come on back. We're gonna hook into our other.
Very good. Coming back for a join. Sorry, say again.
About 6 cars per joint.
Was that second flight with
6 cars.
As we explained in part 1, our conductor Thomas Jenner is running another copy of Run 8 at his house in a different town than where I live. We're just doing this in multiplayer mode over the internet, so I can't actually see what he sees. He's on the rear of the train watching things happen and telling me how to move.
3 cars.
3 now.
2 cars.
2 cars. Putting on some air.
1 car.
1 car.
Car.
We get a join?
We got a joint.
Okay, set and center. What are we picking up here, Thomas?
I just got the 10 cars.
5 empty tanks at Monolith.
That is correct.
I go online on the OC on the Depot Plus server to indicate I picked up those cars.
Understood. Easier for me to do the paperwork sitting here in this nice, cool, air-conditioned cab while you're sweating out there in the desert pulling pins.
Yeah, according to my side of things, it's 91 degrees in Mojave here. Alright, switch line. We're going to pick up the coal hoppers. Come on back. About 6 cars for a hook.
Coming back 6 for a join the coal hoppers. LOP-53.
To our right, we see the plant switcher. That engine is usually used to run the cement hoppers through the loader so that each car can be loaded individually. All we do is deliver the cars to the plant. The plant switcher handles the individual loading.
3 cars for a hook.
3 now for the hook.
Two cars.
2 now. LOP-53.
One car.
1 now.
Here you see me applying the independent brake as I begin to bring those cars to a stop.
Half.
Have a car.
Ten feet.
10 now. 10 feet.
5 feet.
5 feet. That will do on the LOP-53. 7 center. Here. That was good thinking on taking those cars out of that tank car spur. That would have been a toughie getting around and getting those.
Oh yeah.
Taking a look at the dispatcher screen just to make sure there's no traffic coming our way.
Yeah, we're getting the air up. I'm at 80 cubic feet per minute. It's coming down.
Okay, I understand. Okay, Steve, I'm on board on the rear. Take them on with.
Did you say take them ahead, conductor?
That is correct.
All right, here we go.
I set your counter there at the switch for the box cars.
Okay, we'll do.
The conductor has asked me to set my footage counter when I pass the switch leading into the boxcar spur. That way I can predict how much train I have left before I need to stop. Believe it or not, this is on a pretty steep grade. We're on the way up to the Mojave summit near the Tehachapi Loop. This is uphill in this direction and we have to apply quite a bit of throttle. Looks like notch 4 right now just to get this train moving. And so it takes a little bit of pre-planning and finesse on the throttle and the brake to make this work. You'll also note I have the sanders on now that I'm pulling on these cars upgrade. For those unfamiliar with that term, locomotives have sand dispensers that actually pour sand ahead of the locomotive wheels to keep the wheels from slipping on the steel rails. Helps with tractive effort.
Counter set here at the Boxcar Spur, 1,500 feet to countdown.
Understand.
Even though the numbers are a little bit small, you'll know when the counter has run down to 0 because you'll hear a beep through the MFDs in the locomotive. We're down to about 700 feet now, so we're going to slow down just a bit. Since we're climbing uphill, it still takes notch 2 even to run at 9.2 miles an hour. Counter ran down, so we come to a stop.
All stopped.
Understand, all stopped. About 8 cars for a hook.
Going back 8 for the time. LOP-53.
Moving in reverse, it takes 0 throttle, and we're still going 8 miles an hour.
Third hook. Two cars.
2 now. One.
A half car more.
1 half. On that grade, I came to a safety stop a little too quick.
It's all good.
Well, that's still making about 8 miles an hour and only 2 cars yet to go. I apply about 15 pounds of train brake to bring us to a stop. The train brake is slow to apply and even slower to release, so we have a little bit of trouble getting back up to speed.
10 feet.
10 feet.
And that should do.
That'll do on the LOP-53. Set and center. Brakes applying.
I update the OC with the pickups we've made so that everybody knows that the work has been done here at Monolith.
Getting good airflow, 80 cubic feet per minute.
When first connecting the brake air, the conductor only partially opens the ankle cock. Once the flow falls below about 80
Come
cubic
down to
feet per
60.
minute, it's okay to open the ankle cock all the way.
Good to release. Good to take my head stairs, Steve.
Releasing the brakes, taking them ahead on the LOP-53.
And we'll set all this out in the center track.
Center track, understood.
In between the two main lines, North Track 2 and South Track 1, there's a center spur where we can set out our entire train, so when we go back to do our set outs to Monolith, we won't have to drag this whole train around with us, and we also won't be blocking the main lines where other trains might need to run by. Fighting the grade, but also the releasing of our brakes. Finally, the brakes are released, and we're starting to pick up some speed, 4 miles an hour with the sanders on, and notch 5 on the throttle. If you look at the left side of the window, you can see our conductor walking ahead of our train, and there's his view. It's a lot louder outside of the cab. As we mentioned in part 1, we can't actually see this conductor's view while we're playing the game. This is what Thomas is seeing on his computer while he is in multiplayer mode.
If you don't mind, Steve, setting your counter, you can that switch up.
Understood. Thank you, conductor.
Thank you.
Once again, the conductor asks us to set our counter at this upcoming switch so he doesn't need to count every car and he can just stand at the switch and get ready to throw it as our last car passes.
Counting down from 2,000 feet.
Understand.
In order to get this conductor's view, Thomas recorded the game on his computer and then he sent me the file, which I later edited in to this video. As I mentioned in part 1, Thomas's recording was at a different frame rate than mine, so when I put the two together, his looks a little jerky. As you can see from the view out the window of my cab, you can get 60 frames per second or better in running.
Understood. 2 more.
One car.
1 more.
Looks like I set my counter a little bit early. It counted down to 0, but my last car hasn't quite cleared that switch.
That'll do.
That'll do on the LOP-53. I'll stop.
Okay, yeah. Switched our line. I'm protecting the shove. Come on back.
Conductor's on the rear, protecting the shove, coming back into the side.
And when you cleared the switch, this can stop.
Okay.
Crossing down, traffic is stopped.
Understood. Conductor on the point. Traffic stop. Proceeding on back.
We can't see behind our train, so we have to rely on the conductor to tell us if the crossing gates are down and traffic is stopped before we foul a railroad crossing. We're gaining a little too much speed as we go down this grade, so we apply the train brakes, and you can hear the rush of air as that happens.
Set and centered on the LOP-53.
I understand, censored. Alright, select on the pin.
Slack on the pin.
Take my head.
Ahead on the LOP-53.
We now pull away from the cars we just picked up at Monolith, where they're going to sit in that spur, and we're going to back up to reconnect to the cars we brought up from Mojave to set out to the industry tracks at Monolith.
One motor.
One motor on the LOP-53.
And that will do.
That'll do, LOP-53.
Conductor Thomas throws the switch for us so we can pull back on the main and begin our setouts.
Alright, switch is lined. Drive taking shove, come on back.
Switch is lined. Conductor's protecting the shove. Taking them back to a joint.
Our conductor is riding on the platform on the rear locomotive so he can see our movement in the reverse direction.
About 20 cars, Steve.
About 20 on the LOP-53.
The conductor has entered the cab of the rear locomotive so he can watch the shove in comfort. This is his view of things.
Cars.
15, 1-5, LOP-53.
Cars.
5 now.
Three cars.
3 now. LOP-53.
Two cars.
2 cars.
One car.
1 car.
Half car.
1 half.
Ten feet.
10 feet.
That will do.
That'll do on the LOP-53, set and centered. Air on.
Now we attach to the cars we brought up from Mojave Yard, and we'll begin to place those on the tracks at Monolith that they need to go to. We hop into the other locomotive to make sure the headlight will come on when we make a reverse move. Back in the cab, Conductor Thomas slows the switch ahead of us, and we take a look at our train report to see what our consist looks like now.
Alright, ease him on the head while I get the switch.
Conductor's on the head. Pulling the head into the plant.
When we first release our brakes, the train actually begins to roll back as the weight of the train behind us pulls us down grade. We begin to notch out the throttle. We're going to need all we can get to climb up this part of the Monolith Cement Plant where the grade is pretty steep.
about 20 cars.
Did you say 3?
Need 20.
20, okay, understood. 20 cars.
With all of the pickups done, these spurs are pretty much barren, which means it'll be easy for us to set our setouts out to the various tracks. Where space is tight, it's usually a good strategy to do your pickups first before you start setting cars out, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Cars, 1-5.
15-1-5, LOP-53.
Cars.
10 now.
Alright, Brad, another 10-15 cars.
Another 10 or 15 on the LOP-53.
Cars.
10-1-0.
Cars.
5 now, 5.
Cars.
3 now.
2.
2.
Last car.
Last car for the LOP-53.
Alright, go in between.
But in between, set and center.
Even with the air brakes on, the train rolls back a bit as the slack rolls out on this hill.
Alright, need some slack on the pin.
Slack on the pin.
Alright, take them on ahead.
Coming ahead on the LOP-53.
The conductor walks around to the next switch. He's uncoupled the cars that are going to other industries further up the line so that we have our coal hoppers on the rear, which are going to be set out next.
That's the wrong ahead.
The grade's so steep that my train rolled back even though I was in throttle notch 6 trying to pull ahead.
Right.
Sorry, conductor, you broke up.
7 cars.
7 it is. 7 on the LOP-53.
The grade isn't steady here. It gets steeper and shallower and steeper again, so you have to get a feel for it.
4 cars.
4 now.
2 cars.
2 now.
1.
1 car.
That'll do it, 53.
That'll do on the LOP-53. I'll stop.
Switch is lined. Detecting the Chev. Come back. 10 cars.
Understood. Back 10.
We have about 5 cars.
5 now.
AC is
5.
set to 7.
Three cars.
3 cars.
Now that the train is headed downhill, it is hard to stop.
Yeah, I'm set and centered.
Okay, looks like the air valves, angle cocks are already set. Go ahead and give me some slack on the pin.
Looking for some slack.
Alright, take them on ahead.
How far do I need to go, Thomas?
Take them on ahead, about 10 cars.
Ahead 10. Just mark those cars as delivered.
Understand. Five cars.
5 now.
Three.
3 cars.
2 cars.
2 cars.
Car.
1 car now.
And that'll do.
That will do on the LOP-53. I'll stop.
Alright, switch start line. Come on back about 5 cars for a join.
5 for a join. On the LOP-53.
Three cars.
3 now.
2 cars.
2 cars.
1 car.
1 now.
1/2 car.
1 half.
As before, we were making a little too much speed down that steep grade and had to apply about 15 pounds of air brake to stop the train. Now we still need to pull back a little more, so we're simply going to release our brakes and allow the train to coast back.
Ten feet.
10 feet.
5 feet.
5 now.
That will do.
That'll do. All stopped on the LOP-53.
Understand. It's all good. Bring them on ahead as 6 cars.
Ahead 6, LOP-53.
Three cars.
3 cars now.
2.
2 cars.
1 car.
1 car.
That will do. 3.
That will do on the LOP-53. All stop, 7 seconds.
I understand. Alright, take them on ahead. We're going to set off our box cars.
Taking them ahead, and we're going to set off 4 box cars, is that correct?
That is correct.
Conductor Thomas Jenner riding on the last car and guiding our cut of boxcars into the boxcar spur up ahead.
Good for 10 cars.
Good for 10 cars.
Five cars.
5 now.
2 cars.
2 cars to a stop.
1.
1 now.
That will do.
That will do. I'll stop on the LOP-53.
Understand. Come on back.
Come on back. 5 cars first spot. Understood. LOP-53.
Good for 5 cars now.
5 more on the LOP-53.
3 cars.
3 cars.
2 cars.
2 now.
1 car.
1 car.
1/2 car.
1/2 car.
'That'll do. 3.
That will do on the LOP-53. Set and centered.
Alright, there. I'm slacking my pen over.
Coming back for a pin.
Alright, take them on ahead.
Ahead on the LOP-53.
Good for 5 cars.
5 now on the LOP-53.
3.
3 cars.
2.
2 cars now.
1.
And 1.
1/2 car.
1/2. that it? That'll do? I'll stop LOP-53.
Switch turn line to ground tech chef. Come on back about 15 hours.
Come back 15, is that correct, conductor?
That's correct. 15.
Coming back. LOP-53.
Just about 10 cars.
10 now on the LOP-53.
Notice the amber tractive effort. The dynamic brakes are on now. I'm having trouble slowing this train going down the hill even with the brakes, so I'm in dynamic brake notch 5 as we speak.
Six cars.
6 still on the LOP-53.
Little too much braking effort. I stopped early, but it's better than busting a knuckle or derailing.
Three cars.
3 now.
One car.
1 car, LOP-53.
Half.
1 half.
And that will do us at 53.
That'll do on the LOP-53, set and center.
Ahead 53. Good for 10 cars.
15 on the LOP-53.
Five cars.
5 cars, LOP-53.
3 cars.
3 now.
2.
2 cars.
1 car.
1 now.
And that will do.
That will do, LOP-53. I'll stop on the LOP-53.
Stay up. I'll be in between.
Set and centered.
And centered. Alright, take it ahead.
Ahead, LOP-53.
Let's just bring it up one more.
Bringing up what?
Yes, sir, 1.
Okay, stopping now.
Alright,
All stopped on the LOP-53.
I'm staying, I'll stop. Alright, give me some slack on the pen now.
Pin, LOP-53.
Ahead.
Ahead, LOP-53. One locomotive.
Ahead a little bit more.
Yeah, I stopped a little short.
And that will do, 53.
That will do on the LOP-53. All stopped.
Alright, switching the line, come on back.
Which is line, conductor's on the point. Coming back on the LOP-53.
We need to back up in order to run around those tank cars that were set out in front of the tank spur. Since it's a facing point switch, we'll have to push the tank cars into that spur. Once we've done that, we'll be ready to pick up our remaining train and head up the line to do more switching. The cars you see to the left are actually the cars that are going to go to other industries further up the line. Closer on the left, you see the boxcars we just set out.
Good for about 10 cars.
10 now. The LOP-53.
There are the coal hoppers we set out.
Two motors.
2 more. LOP-53.
Looks like that'll do it.
That will do on the LOP-53. All stopped.
Conductor Thomas runs ahead and throws the switch to line us into the spur where we can couple onto those tank cars.
Alright, bring them on ahead, 53.
Coming ahead on the LOP-53 to join.
Really hard to get good speed going and yet not too much momentum to where you can't stop.
A half car length.
Tell you what, it's no joke shoving up this mountain grade.
Big challenge.
All stopped. Set and center LOP-53.
Set. Alright, we're bringing about 6 cars.
6 cars ahead.
Conductor Thomas has run this local before. I'll admit, I've never run it, and it is a tough one. Go too slow, you stall out. Go too fast, you risk running off the end of the track.
5 cars.
5 now.
Three.
3 cars.
The crashing you're hearing is the slack being taken up and then let out again as we continue to work our throttle and brake to get these cars shoved into this spur.
Two.
2 cars.
1 car.
1 car.
Half car.
1 half.
And that.
That will do on the LOP-53. Set and centered.
Finish. Alright, bring them on back.
Coming back on the LOP-53.
Take them on out to the main.
All the way to the main. All stopped on the LOP-53.
Understand.
In part 3, we'll grab this train and the pickups we left in that spur, the center track, head up to Summit, switch chem tool, and pick up a helper locomotive over at Summit Switch. Hope you'll be able to join us for that. And thanks for watching.